With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
When we started writing our thoughts down on paper, it opened up endless possibilities. Ideas could grow beyond the borders of the mind, and it changed the world. Somewhere along the way, we lost touch with paper, distracted by devices made for every purpose except for thinking and focus. On edge, waiting for the next notification. But what if new technology didn't pull us away from paper, but brought us closer to it? Listen. That's not paper. It's the sound of the new Remarkable Paper Pro, rewriting the future. A paper tablet with a true color ink display, gentle reading light, and unheard of tactility. With digital features for taking notes, thinking, and organizing, without any distractions. Paper is about to change the world again. Get your paper tablet at remarkable.com today.
Okay, the draft dust has finally settled.
It has, and the takes are flying.
Oh, yeah. You've probably seen, 100 different opinions online already. Now comes the tricky part, right? Figuring out what it all actually means.
Exactly.
Welcome to the deep dive. This time, we're zoning in on those immediate reactions to the 2025 NFL Draft. We're talking about the initial expert evaluations, the draft grades.
Right. We're going to try and give you a bit of a shortcut through all that noise.
Yeah, cut through the clutter, understand the early buzz, who the smart analysts think did well, and maybe more importantly, where they're already disagreeing. Locking horns a bit.
Definitely. Because as soon as that final pick, Mr. Irrelevant, was announced, it was like the floodgates just opened.
Instant.
Every analyst, every data platform like PFF, Team Insiders, they all rushed to get their verdict out there.
So our job here is to sort of navigate that flood for you.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We've looked at that first wave, people like Mel Kiper, obviously the PFF grades, reporters close to the teams.
Getting that inside scoop sometimes.
Yeah, and we want to highlight not just the A, B, C grades themselves, but the why behind them. Where do the experts see things differently? What's the reasoning?
Right, because you see that whole spectrum, don't you? From the instant gut reactions, the hot takes online.
Oh yeah, fans going wild in the comments.
So maybe the slightly more considered takes that come out a day or two later. But what are the pros saying right now, and why? Let's dive into maybe the AFC North first. Always a tough division.
Good place to start. Always scrutinized.
Yeah, opinions are rarely, let's say, mild there.
Yeah.
Let's kick off with Pittsburgh. Steelers draft picks 2025 was definitely a popular search. What were the first evaluations saying?
Well, the Steelers, it's interesting. There's some different viewpoints already.
Okay.
Generally, people seem to agree they did what the Steelers usually do, focus on strengthening the lines. Offensive line, defensive line. That's their traditional approach.
Building in the trenches.
Exactly. Now, if they did pick a quarterback, that's where the grades can really diverge. It depends heavily on how that specific analyst views that QB's potential, the fit.
Right, like a Kuiper grade might be lower if they didn't take a QB he loved early.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
He often values grabbing those top QB prospects. But then maybe a data place like PFF might love an offensive lineman they picked if their models saw him as great value, a big upgrade.
So we're looking for mentions of potential steals.
Right. Guys picked later than maybe they should have been.
Or reaches players they maybe took a round or two too early in some eyes.
That's exactly what we're digging into for the Steelers class.
Okay, makes sense. What about their rivals down in Cleveland? Browns draft picks 2025, NFL draft grades 2025 for them. Also getting lots of clicks.
Yeah, the Browns are a different case study, really.
Because of the draft capital situation, they've traded away some high picks.
Exactly. Fewer high-round picks means each one is under more scrutiny. So the grades often reflect, how effectively did they use those limited shots?
Did they maximize the value?
Did they complement what they already have? Fill those remaining holes, maybe at receiver or in the secondary. Did analysts think they got good value there?
Were there any surprises? Moves people didn't see coming?
That's key too. And how were those received? Because, look, if you have less capital Analysts can be pretty critical if it looks like you didn't nail every pick.
Like maybe they played it too safe, didn't take big swings.
That's a criticism you sometimes see leveled, yeah.
Yeah.
Did they really attack their needs aggressively?
Okay. And just briefly, the other two in the AFC North, the Ravens and the Bengals, any early vibe from the overall NFL draft grades or AFC North chatter?
Generally, for Baltimore and Cincy, teams that expect to be in the playoffs, the sentiment seems pretty positive overall.
Okay.
The analysis is looking at whether they added pieces effectively, maintaining that competitive edge without maybe reaching or overspending draft capital.
Just solid additions.
Yeah, trends suggest satisfaction, bolstering depth, adding playmakers, guys who might contribute fairly quickly. Seems like smart, solid drafting is the consensus for them early on.
All right, let's switch conferences. NFC East, another division where, let's just say fans are passionate.
And expectations are always sky high.
Definitely. Philadelphia Eagles first, Eagles draft picks 2025, and especially Eagles draft grades. Those terms are popping up a lot. What's the story there?
Well, with Philly, a lot of the grade focus seems to be on defense.
Yeah.
That was the big question mark coming in for many.
Makes sense. They needed help there.
So analysts are looking closely. Did they invest enough in the D-line, the secondary? Those areas felt like big needs, and the grades reflect that focus.
Seeing a mix of opinions.
Yeah, definitely a spectrum. Some more critical evaluations might say, hey, they missed out on some higher-rated defensive guys who were still on the board when they picked.
Okay.
But then the more positive grades might highlight value they found later, or maybe a smart trade they made. You want to look for grades that are consistently strong or weak across different analysts. That usually tells you something.
Good point. And their big rivals, the Dallas Cowboys. Always a lightning rod. Searches for Cowboys draft picks 2025, Dallas Cowboys draft picks, and just general draft grades for them. It's always huge.
Oh, yeah. The Cowboys draft generates clicks, that's for sure. And debate.
So what are the early evaluations saying? How did the experts feel Jerry and company did?
It seems like a bit of a mixed bag, honestly. Which isn't that unusual for Dallas, right?
No. Pretty standard.
Some analysts are definitely praising the moves to fix that offensive line. That was a worry last year, seeing those picks as, solid foundational moves. But others are maybe a bit skeptical about defensive picks or questioning the value they got at certain spots. Did they reach?
Always the question with Dallas picks sometimes. They can be polarizing.
Very. You might see a secondary pick that one analyst loved, sees upside, playmaking, while another just thinks, whoa, that was way too early based on my board. That kind of thing.
Okay. And rounding out the NFC East, the New York Giants. Based on NFL draft grades and searches like Giants draft picks 2025, what's the initial buzz there?
For the Giants, I'd say the feeling leans towards maybe cautious optimism.
Okay.
A lot of focus is on, did they address the key needs? They're still building. So the quarterback situation, obviously, receiver help, their O-line picks.
Do the grades reflect a coherent strategy?
That's what analysts are looking for. Does it look like there's a long-term plan in how they're building this roster? Do the talent levels match the draft slots? That's shaping the early grades.
Gotcha. So let's zoom out a bit from the teams. What broader themes or lingering questions are popping up from these first takes? We saw tons of searches for NFL Draft Round 2. People definitely kept watching after night one.
Oh, absolutely.
Did the overall grades change much after those big first-round splashes?
That's a really good point. Because while Round 1 gets the headlines and those instant grades, the evaluation definitely keeps evolving.
Right.
Teams that nail their picks in NFL Draft Round 2, or even find gems on NFL Draft Day 2 and NFL Draft Day 3, they can see their overall grade shoot up.
Makes sense. The whole class.
Exactly. And the reverse is true, too. A great first round can be undermined if the later picks look like reaches or don't fill needs. It's about the complete haul.
We also saw a lot of interest in the QB draft class 2025. Specific searches, too, like Travis Hunter draft, though he's unique, but also Dylan Gabriel draft, Cam Ward NFL draft.
Right.
Did the grades for the teams who took those guys reflect how analysts saw that pick's value or potential?
Oh, definitely. Quarterback moves the needle like no other position.
For sure.
So drafting one, especially somewhat early, massively impacts a team's grade. If an analyst thinks a team got a potential franchise guy, big boost.
And if they think it was a reach. Or maybe a lower ceiling developmental guy.
Then it can drag the grade down, absolutely. For guys like Hunter, with that two-way potential, or QBs like Gabriel or Ward, It really depends on the fit, the scheme, the expected role.
And the draft slot, I guess.
Yeah, a later round QB might be seen as a smart, low-risk flyer that actually helps the value grade.
Interesting. And it's always fascinating to see how the actual draft lines up with the, million NFL mock drafts beforehand.
Yeah, mock draft season never ends.
When teams go way off script from those mocks, how does that usually play into these initial grades? Does it make analysts harsher?
It can, initially. When there are big surprises, teams going completely against the consensus mock. Yeah, it can lead to more critical first reaction grades.
Because the analysts had player X rated higher.
Exactly. They have their own boards, their own evaluations. If a team passes on their higher rated guy for someone else, the gut reaction might be negative.
But you have to remember.
You absolutely have to remember that teams have way more information. Their own scouting, medicals, interviews, scheme fit, things the mocks just can't fully capture. Sometimes those wait what picks turn out brilliant later, even if they got panned initially.
Good reminder. And just the sheer volume of searches for stuff like NFL Draft Day 2, NFL Draft Day 3, and people using tools like the SBN Draft Tracker or checking NFL.draft and Yahoo Sports. It shows this isn't just a one-night event for fans either.
No way. It's a multi-day obsession for a lot of people. The draft is a process, and the story keeps changing pick by pick, day by day. Those trackers let everyone follow along and keep forming opinions way beyond the first round.
So as we're wading through all this initial analysis, these draft grades so far, it's important to remember who's doing the grading right.
Crucial point.
Guys like Mel Kiper, he's an institution. His opinion carries weight, obviously.
But
different analysts have different methods.
totally different approaches sometimes. You take someone like Kiper, more traditional scouting background, might prioritize certain traits or positions. Compared to, say, PFF, which is heavily data-driven. Advanced stats, performance metrics, that's their bread and butter.
And then you have the team beat writers.
Right. Who are embedded. They understand the team's specific needs, maybe the coaching staff preferences in a way others don't. Their grades might reflect that inside knowledge.
So to get the full picture, you really need to look at a few different sources.
I think so. You need to consume a variety of perspectives, understand the different lenses these draft grades so far are viewed through.
Absolutely, because these initial grades, they're really just the first impression, a snapshot after a huge, complex weekend.
Exactly right. The real grade, the ultimate success of these draft classes, that's not decided by a letter handed out hours after the draft ends.
Nope, it's decided on the field.
It's measured by performance, by development over years, how these guys actually help their teams win or lose.
So as you keep following your team, keep tracking these rookies. Just remember, this evaluation is definitely a marathon, not a sprint.
Well said.
These first grades, they give us a fascinating starting point. They show the early consensus, the debates, but the real story, that unfolds on Sundays in the fall.
Couldn't agree more. It'll be fun to watch.
Definitely will. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll be keeping an eye on how these classes develop right along with you.